I need to switch my camera. Let me see if that thing's plugged in. That's plugged in, yeah. Let me try.
It's like something's blocking the front of it.
I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dieter, a make-it-rider. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. No one can keep me down. They didn't know, but they know now. That I'm a fighter.
Welcome, Patriots. Happy, what is it today? James, it's Thursday, right?
It
Happy
is.
Happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the America First Patriot Hour. Tonight, as you can see, we have our special guest from Michigan, the Enjoyer podcast, and also a battleground swing state New York Post reporter, James David Dickson. James, how are we doing?
I'm so good, Leo. Thank you for having me.
Well, after last night, we could not end on that type of night. So I'm glad to have you back. Let me just go ahead and get you framed up a little bit here, just so
Absolutely.
everybody can see. Everything looks good. So how is everything treating you in Michigan today?
I'm so blessed right now, like with the Michigan Enjoyer, right? The chance to tell the kind of stories you want, the way you want, uh, and doing things that our media largely are not doing at all. It's just really cool. And then to be able to cover the 2024 election is just it's unreal. So
Yeah,
better than I deserve, as Dave Ramsey would say.
that's what I consider. I'm ex-military, and we'll go into a little bit about each other just so we kind of set the infrastructure, set the baseline of who we are, what we've done. So I was ex-military, healthcare, fought for my country, loved my country. Third time voting for Donald Trump, big time America first, and just after the last 4 years, James, what the Dems have done to the country is absolutely mind blowing. So I just thought, about 8 months ago, I can't sit back and watch this anymore. I'm going to start my own show. So here
Mm,
I am, and I get to invite great guys like you on that can tell us what's happening in other parts of the United States. So tell us a little bit about you. You already know the Enjoyer podcast, the New York Post. I've seen you on Fox and Friends. I've seen you on other shows. I did my research. So tell us a little bit about James.
absolutely. I've been blessed. So I'm 40 years old right now. I'm shooting this in literally my mom's basement. I moved to her home in Southfield last year after she passed away at the age of
Sorry to hear
66.
that.
Love to see me doing this kind of thing. It was kind of all on the cusp of happening. and sometimes you run out of time. It was kind of like Moses, right, where you get to have a view of what the promised land looks like from afar, but you don't get to walk around in it. You don't get to drink the milk and eat the honey. Um, so we started the Enjoyer Project July 3rd, and I thought that timing was so cool because one, I had just ended a relationship with the Mackinac Center. I used to run their news outlet, and then it was like 3 months of like what are you gonna do? And then thank God this all starts. And then for like my personal Independence Day to come a day before our Independence Day, I just get a real kick out of that. And so I've never had someone in my life just say, "What do you think? What would you like to say? What would you like to do?" And I don't take it lightly to be given this opportunity. It is an incredible blessing, and I try to act that way.
It is, there's a lot of big shows. There's a lot of huge podcasts. There's a lot of big, celebrities
Oh yeah.
on X, on Rumble, and this show is. So for all my friends that are out there right now, remember, we're on X. We are live streaming on Rumble, and we are live streaming on YouTube. So come join us tonight. Get in chat, and come talk to James and myself, and we'll tell you a little bit about what's happening. So it's been exciting for me because it's a whole lot different when you're working for somebody versus doing everything for yourself.
Very much so.
And it's very liberating because you correlate that, or you tie it over with what's happening to the country and this unbelievable patriotism that you have inside. Because our job, James, I always thought, is to leave America a better place than we grew up in, so that our children and our grandchildren and friends and neighbors and relatives.
Were you a Boy Scout, Leo?
What's that?
Were you a Boy Scout? Because that's the Scout's motto, isn't it? Leave it better than you found it.
Oh yeah, I was at one time.
It used to be so embedded that you didn't have to be a scout. Like you said, it was the American ethic. And that obviously has gone by the wayside. That's obviously not the case anymore.
So your state, and I'll throw up a quick thing here. Let me show you this. You can see the screen. So, James, why don't you tell us who these four ladies are real quick?
I think she's kind of holding her hand like she's about to grab a Dorito to do the Dorito communion, but I think it was a camouflage hat, not a shirt in that video. I have to double check it. Top left, we have Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State, and so that's the woman who runs our whole election process in Michigan. Top right, we have Alyssa Slotkin, the Democrat who is running for the U.S. Senate. She's a congresswoman right now. She lives in Oakland County, so she's a neighbor of mine in Oakland County, Michigan. She claims to be a farmer. She doesn't do any farming. She takes the tax credit anyway. And then bottom right, we have Dana Nessel. Dana Nessel, our Attorney General in Michigan. And I just had a story involving her. We had a candidate in a tight congressional race, Tom Barrett. He's running against Curtis Hertel in this Lansing area seat. It's a Cook Political Reports, close race, right? Everyone's watching. Barrett, unfortunately, he had this ad that was printed in a black newspaper in Lansing that, said vote for Barrett, but it gave November 6th as the election day. And not November 5th. I mean, it was just a mistake. It happens. I mean, the first mistake I ever made at the Detroit News came frighteningly early in my tenure. So I had a 10-year career there, right? I start in April 2012, and I think August we would have had primaries because I needed to move. I lived in Ann Arbor back then. I needed to move to Detroit area, so I was looking for apartments that day. Too much going on. Bad attitude toward the assignment. We were doing election endorsements, right? And so it was the 2012 Michigan Senate race, I believe. And our paper endorsed Pete Hoekstra, who is now the chairman of the Michigan GOP. But what ran the day before the race was that we endorsed Clark Durant, his opponent.
Oh.
And, I was, pretty much the person who had touched that file. It was billion% on me. And it was that they actually said that, Nolan Finley, he hired me, and thank God, was kind of able to weigh in and keep me employed. I was suspended for a day, but it was relayed that my willingness to just admit that it was me, it wasn't anyone else, it wasn't the production team, it wasn't anyone else, it was me, probably helped that day.
Well, we're human. And I used to say back in the day, we're all human and we suffer, or we're all human and we suffer from the human disease, which means we're imperfect. We fall extremely short of God. We're supposed to strive to be like Him, but that's a tough journey for humans. And
I haven't had that day yet.
No, and I don't think we're gonna until we get somewhere a little bit further up north. But that's how people are supposed to learn. I've learned more. So I went to school, got my bachelor, was pre-med at one time, I did all this stuff, but I learned more when I was actually on the job.
Right.
Because that's where we all learn. And unfortunately, we have to learn from mistakes. Because if you're a prideful person, like I can see you're a prideful person, I can only imagine what James was like that day after he ran that story because it was his fault. You probably felt lower than a pregnant snake. You were just like, oh man, I can't believe I just did that. And then as prideful people, we go back and we try to replay our steps, and we sit back and we say, okay, how did that happen? What did I do? What did I do wrong? I had this set up, and you start second guessing everything. Well, by that time, it's pretty much too late. It's already in your rearview mirror, and what you just have to do is say, okay, I apologize. This is all on me. It was nobody else's fault. I did this. I don't know how I did it, but I'm going to go figure it out. But if anybody needs to take the blame, put it right here at James's feet.
I knew what happened that day. I knew it was related to my attitude toward what I had to do. I mean, knowing myself, I was probably mad that at age 28, I wasn't running the entire paper. And so just, you take an attitude that's not the right attitude. And, and to their credit, when you stay at a place for 10 years, you're able to grow and you're able to learn what it takes. And some of your best mentorship will come involuntarily and will come from people who are not setting out in and wake up that day wanting to help you, but they can't let you mess up their stuff either. Mm-mm. And so it is a blessing to be held to a standard, to have been held to a standard. The whole thing makes me wonder what the hell they're doing now, because I remember people being up my ass, and it's clear that no one's up their ass, because if they were, I wouldn't have to be this media critic in Michigan, because they'd have checks and balances internally. That's a whole nother thing, though. It's a personal crusade.
Well, no, but it's a great segue, because I'm trying to bring on key battleground states, other podcasters, other people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to follow everybody that I can for a couple of reasons. One, I want to promote you because we do the same thing.
Right.
Two, we're trying to fight for the same thing, the same cause, which unfortunately, guys like you and me, well, we get to see a little bit under the hood sometimes. So we're privy to some of the stuff that's even a little bit more dark than what most Americans think. And most Americans right now think everything is mucked up really bad.
Right.
So I enjoy that. I was military. I was like, put everything on my back. I'm okay being that guy. In fact, I'd rather have the responsibility. I'm the dude that doesn't want to be on the bench. I'm the dude that's like, okay, give me the ball. If I screw up, so be it. I'll take the blame, but give me the ball.
Right.
Well, sometimes when you get the ball, things don't turn out exactly the way you want.
Absolutely.
But that's usually because God is saying, well, here, James is a motivated young man. We're going to teach him a little valuable lesson right here because he's not where he needs to be. We're going to bring him back up to speed. And it's funny how God does that. He does that to all of us. He smacked me back into place a couple times where I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. I'm getting a little too big here, a little too whatever. And it was his way of saying, hey, get back in the game, appreciate what you do have. You know, like Casey Kasem said, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Right.
That's what we do. And that's why guys like you and I can do our own thing because we're self-motivated individuals. We want to be successful, not because somebody's pushing us or somebody's saying, you better do this or you're not going to get paid this.
Right.
We do this on our own. So I do 12 hours a day on this because I'm trying to find people. I'm trying to create the show. I'm trying to create the virtual set. And then God knows when I had a day like yesterday, Zoom would not work for me. Never happened before. I can't begin to tell you how disappointed and upset I was because I work hard to go get guys like you.
I had a call with actually the local Fox affiliate last week that was supposed to be on Zoom, and they had technical issues. So I'm two is a trend. Any one you can write off, but I'm thinking it might be a Zoom thing. Like honestly.
Well, it's so funny because my girlfriend sat next to me last night. I'm pissed. You know, I'm ready to bite nails off because I spent all this time trying to go out and get you, trying to find you. I got all the people watching on YouTube, X, Rumble. I'm promoting this. I put all this stuff together, spent 7 hours, and then I can't get you on. And people on X are like, oh, hey, what happened with James? I'm like, James will be back on tomorrow. I am a one-man producer. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, and it's frustrating because James, I didn't know what went wrong. It's worked every single time. I've had Corey Mills on. I've had Congressman Tim Burchett. I've had Mandy Gunasekara, Trump's EPA. I've had all these big people on. Never had a problem. Last night, I could not get James to come into the Zoom. So I'm sitting there, and this is how funny things work. So nobody has to tell me I'm bad because I will beat myself up worse than anybody.
Yeah.
You can relate, right?
1,000,000%.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I look at her, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. So I'm sitting there, and then I thought, okay, you know what? I now have the fix. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I need to use my vMix call. Forget Zoom. I'm on vMix. Let me use the vMix call. He'll come right in. It'll be lickety-split. It'll be perfect. So knock on wood, thank God, tonight it worked. But that was one of those things where I'm like, okay, I needed to experience what I went through so that I could figure out what the next solution is. And I believe that Trump is a lot like that. You know, because here's a man, they've thrown everything at him, James, everything. And the kitchen sink.
Oh, yeah.
91 charges. He's a felon, illegal lawfare, 2 assassination attempts. And the man just keeps going. And so when I have a little hiccup like yesterday, I sit there for a second. I feel bad. I'm pissed because I don't want to waste your time. And I want to be able to continue to attract good people. Well, you can't have mistakes. You have to have this nice virtual set. You have to have a great show so that people want to come back on. But it was a valuable lesson because that break, that failure led to this. And now look, here we are. We're doing it. We're going to talk Michigan, the 16 electoral votes.
15 now.
15 now. Did
15
they
now. Yeah, it was 16 in 2020. We lost some in the last reapportionment, because Michigan's a shrinking state.
Wonder
So
why
we
they're
have
shrinking.
electoral votes as we had a century ago.
Mhm.
At one point, we had 19 members of Congress, and then the two senators. So we had 21 at one point, and now so we go from 13. You have this day in the sun, and now we're right back down to earth. We've lost everything that made us powerful and special, which is first and foremost our manufacturing. That's people, that's money, that's influence, and all that. It's not all gone, but it's all considerably toned down.
And we all know why that's happened, right?
Right.
So when I think of Michigan, and just so that we both know, I'm a Columbus, Ohio guy. You
Sorry
are
to hear that.
you are a Michigan guy, so I don't even say the name. We just say the school up north. we don't even use the M word.
Yeah,
We
when you
just use
said Michigan just now, you were talking about the state. You weren't talking about the school.
Yeah, no, I'm so I grew up a Buckeye fan. I grew up in Ohio. I was born in Cleveland. I grew up in Ohio. I lived in Chicago, Florida. I lived in some other places because of work.
Yeah.
But we always call it the school up north. There
Well,
is
we're all struggling with something, Leo.
so I just thought it was important because here's a guy, a Michigan guy, here's an Ohio guy, but we're here. We've put aside the Wolverines and Buckeyes type things because we know there's bigger things at play right now, and it's so important because when I look at a Gretchen the Witch Whitmore, and I think to myself, how in God's name did she get elected? And I'm a huge Tudor Dickson fan. Huge.
I like Tudor Dickson.
Love her podcast. She was going to come on my show. She's probably going to come on coming November. Huge fan of Tudor. And I'm thinking, how in the hell did she not win? And, well, when you put up those four ladies again, I think it's pretty clear to understand you're really going up against a Democrat stronghold, but I think Trump is going to crack it. How do you see things right now in Michigan?
So here's the thing about 2022, and I like Tudor as well. Tudor's my cousin, the Dixons. We have love for them as well. They're not, I'm not going to say brother, but cousin, yeah.
Okay.
So I like Tudor, but let's not get it twisted about what Tudor was. Tudor was the best of what was left.
Mm-hmm.
And what was removed from the ballot is, James Craig and pretty much just James Craig. There's other people removed from the ballot, but that was the one that mattered because it was summer 2021, about a year and a half before the race, where Craig retires as Detroit police chief. And he basically makes it clear that he's going to run for governor. At one point, he was polling like 1/3 of the vote in Detroit. So that kind of math for a Democrat would have just been catastrophic. With those numbers, he would have walked in. And it's funny because it was when Craig became identified as a candidate that Whitmer started to peel back from her COVID orders because she knew, there was some, someone who could do something about that. But Craig didn't make the ballot. And so everyone thinks they have their champion, right? That, all right, we got our person. We know a year and a half from now who's going to be facing Gretchen Whitmer. And he might not be a perfect candidate, might not be a perfect guy, but it could probably be worked with. He could be stage managed. It could be made so. And then that guy doesn't even make the ballot. That takes the wind out of so many sails in a way that's even tough to describe. Like I think it created a hopelessness. And the effort was certainly poor by Republicans. I mean, they were talking about in their little post-election memo. They said, "Oh, we thought Tudor was going to lose, but we thought it was going to be close enough where we'd hold the legislature." So you guys knew you were going to lose by 8 points the week before the election and didn't do something about it. You guys are losers, and so that's the real problem. Is you're trying to root out the loser mentality from your own party. And by the way, If anyone who's watching this is connected with the Michigan GOP, unblock me on Twitter. What are you guys doing? Obviously, the fire got too hot in the kitchen and you had to block me, but the Democrats don't even have me blocked. So don't be stupid. Unblock me.
So it sounds like you're making friends on both sides, James.
I am. It can be sometimes a lonely place telling everybody about themselves. The good thing is people often tell me about myself. So it goes both ways.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm not above criticism. I'm not above, it's just you got to be on point. So, yeah, I thought the GOP had so many internal problems that I almost put an asterisk by that Whitmer win in 2022. And so based on that, she was supposed to be the star this year. Then I read her memoir, and this thing is like, I think I have it around here. I do have it. This, see how thin that is?
Yeah.
That's her memoir. This is the life story of the governor of Michigan.
So is it like a Kamala's when you open up the book, it's all empty pages, the one from Walmart?
I've seen versions of Tom Paine's Common Sense that were thicker than this. So that's what we're left with, and that's why she did so bad on the national stage. And it's kind of the same thing as Harris, where whether it's Tim Walz in Minnesota, Whitmer in Michigan, or Harris in California, these Democrats all face such favorable media in their state that by the time they get to the national, they're not even prepared for curious questions. So any kind of hardball question, they totally crumble every time because they face a too favorable media. And you know what happens if you eat softballs, you're not going to be ready for the good competition.
That's exactly right. So for all our friends that are joining James David Dickson and myself tonight here on the America First Patriot Hour, if you're on X or Rumble or YouTube, join us in chat. And I see Heather Dow is on. And Heather is saying, Whitmer's pamphlet, she calls it, the book.
That is my friend Patriot Post Girl. Patriot, you should have her on. Patriot Post Girl, no joke, is the meme queen of Michigan. And
Heather?
So these days, what I learned when I was at the Mackinac Center is, especially when you're dealing with something dry like policy, it is very tough to get people to read, to actually read. And so what she has a gift for is she'll create a visual to match with the article that, when you're just scrolling and everything's just words and it's tough to grab onto any one thing, her visual is so compelling that it stops the scroll. And someone may even click that article. I tell Heather, there's people who read the only thing they've read that day because she made a visual that compelled them.
Heather, you're on chat tonight. James will let you know how to contact me. Follow me on X and DM me, and let's get together. I'm all about getting Patriots on the show. So, James, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Her name is literally Patriot Post Girl. You'll love her.
Yeah, I already do. So anybody can help me with some of the visuals, because everything you see, I've created. Everything. Canva, VMix, XSplit. Everything I've had to learn. And I'm 60, James, so I'm not a young man.
60?
I'm 60.
Holy cow, you're 60?
I'm 60 years old.
I'm 40. You look like you could give me a run for my money at this point, Leo. Holy cow, man.
Well, being ex-special ops helps kind of a guy in playing sports, but I am 60, and you can see the gray. It's in there, in the glasses. But
I've been told not to pray away the gray. I've been told to just let nature take its course.
No, every time I diet, my girlfriend looks at me and she says, I like the gray better. And I'm like, okay, well,
right, you gotta trying to look young.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, whatever you want, whatever you say, dear. They're always right. I'm not
Customer's always right. I mean,
that's exactly right. So right now, let me pull up Polymarket. Let me show you some cool slides that I created. You can see that clearly on your screen, James. So here's Trump. He's up big in Arizona, big in Georgia. Looks like he's going to really crush Pennsylvania, but Scott Pressler. If you know Scott, and the dude's name is The Persistence, and I can completely understand where he got that name.
The Saint. Like, we need a Scott Pressler in every state. I've asked him a few times, who's the Scott Pressler of Michigan? Because I want to meet them and shake their hand. And the sad thing is, I'm not sure if there is one.
The dude is incredible. And Scott and I followed each other a long time ago, and he just outworks everybody. And if they carry Pennsylvania, I'm going to tell you right now, early action vote, it's going to be because of Scott. You know, that dude's signing up Amish people. He's signing up everybody that he can get a hold of. So, Scott, dude, The Persistence. All right, got you, brother. Charlie Kirk's another guy. He's done a phenomenal job. So, Wisconsin, we're winning. Nevada looks like we're winning. Polymarket tonight, James. Are you familiar with Polymarket?
I am.
The first time tonight. So Trump broke 60% in the betting odds. So he's up like 61 to 38%, 39. And after Kamala's wonderful Fox News interview yesterday, she kind of dropped another 3 points. You just can't get Kamala talking. If she gets talking and gets hit with, like you said, non-softball questions. Whew.
Not even probing questions, just not softballs.
Stuff she should have recited on the back of her hand. Like you're running for president, for Christ's sakes. The border, right. These things are just common layups.
Mm-hmm.
And all they know how to do is say, well, it's Trump's fault. Well, no, 12 out of the last 16 years, the Democrats have been in office. Well, no, but that's because of Trump. Well, no.
And they're in such an echo chamber. It's actually sad watching them at this point because they clearly hang out with so many people who are like themselves that they don't see the thinness of but Trump. I mean, there was one point when Kamala Harris actually said she felt bad for the families who lost someone who was killed by an illegal immigrant and literally said, but Donald Trump. She said the word but. She didn't infer it. She didn't talk around it and get to, okay, but. She said but. It was so crude and unskilled. And I think that's the part that's really offensive. We've seen Biden make sentiments like that. We saw this guy checking his clock at a memorial service for fallen soldiers. But to say, I'm sorry for your loss, but Donald Trump, tells me you have nothing to say.
When human life becomes, so as an ex-soldier who would have died for my country.
Yeah.
Every human life is valuable. And if you're elected to govern our country as a mayor, city council, school board, senator, Republican, Democrat, independent, I don't care. If you're elected, your job is to care for every single American.
Right.
Not bring in 22 million illegals and say, hey, have at it. Because we want to muck up everything for Trump as bad as we can. Well, but what about the Laken Rileys or the Jocelyn Lugaris that they asked her about last night? And she gave the but. So when you're one of those families' moms, Laken Riley just went out for a jog. Jocelyn was a mother. And you just sit back and you think, so you're telling me human life is so little to you that it's just a but and it's a pivot point to Trump?
Right.
James, sometimes I don't understand people and they wonder why they're losing. And they're losing badly because of everything that's taken place for 4 years. Americans have had to swallow and eat and take whatever they've dished out because, for the most part, we're not out there protesting. We're not out there burning buildings. We're not out there doing things. We're trying to let the process play itself through.
Right.
Now, trust me, November 5th is a line in the sand, because we know by now she's getting cooked. She can't answer a reasonable question. She never got a vote. She was thrown in. You seen the interview? If you've watched X, did you see the interview with or the footage where Obama was talking to Biden at Kennedy's funeral?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, people are trying to read lips and stuff, and then today it came out that he basically said she's not as strong as you, Joe. But Joe, you're not exactly with us most of the time, so you're in Delaware on a beach or you're in a basement somewhere.
Right.
These are dangerous times, James. Iran, Hamas, Palestine, the stuff going on with Israel, Iraq, Hezbollah.
And that's what I find fascinating about this moment, is I see chickens coming home to roost, as Malcolm X would say. I see the culture of death that was supposed to ensnare us now is affecting the Democrats. So you're supposed to let in all these millions of people, and then if there's another Democrat elected, you push for amnesty. Then we're forever a one-party state that Democrats just drive into the ground and they build back better. Democrats would be winning easily if perhaps rather than 13% of the population, black people were like 25%, as we might be if we weren't aborting like half the black kids who would be born in the country. And so every single thing they do, every lever they pull, every fire alarm, everything they do to destabilize America or the world in a way that weakens America, these things are now affecting them. I mean, Joe Biden was basically a stink bomb that was thrown into America. And they thought it would hurt us, and he did hurt us. But now who does it hurt? Biden's incompetence now hurts Kamala Harris more than anybody. And his selfishness affects Kamala Harris more than anybody. So yeah, bad storm response, but it augurs well for the need for regime change. Let's think back to 4 years ago. You were made to think they were going to cancel football season, remember?
Mm-hmm.
You were made to think that life is so miserable now under Donald Trump that you need regime change, that Joe Biden would bring things back to normal, that the adults would be back in the room. And America made that leap. Let's just say he did get 81 trillion votes. I think that was the official count. 81 trillion votes. So he gets 81 trillion votes. He's installed as president. And they go about wrecking the place immediately.
Day one.
We can't do 4 more years. We don't have 4 more years of stuff to ruin.
Thank you.
Took 250 years to build this. It would take less than a decade to ruin it.
James, if they get in again,
it's over.
You're talking 50, 60 million illegals.
Amnesty. Packed Supreme Court. We're going to have as many Supreme Court as we do lawmakers.
Yep. They'll end the filibuster.
So the America you knew is going to be gone, and it's going to be a runaway train. And so when Donald Trump says, if you elect Harris, what you'll get is your town will be more like Detroit, that's what he's talking about, is a one-party state where that one party doesn't need to serve you because there's no other game in town, and they rob you blind because who are you going to complain to? That's Detroit. That could be America.
So with Jocelyn and Dana and Gretchen and Alyssa, or whatever her name is, Slotkin. I just call her Slotkin. How in the hell does Polymarket have Trump up by 10 in Michigan? And every poll I've seen has Trump winning Michigan right now. So I got a good friend. You know who Mark Mitchell is from Rasmussen Reports?
Oh, yeah.
So Mark's been on my show twice. Great friend, great guy.
Yeah.
One of the few pollsters I believe, because all these others are propagandists. They're just putting out propaganda.
They do push polling.
Exactly.
Right.
They set on data, they push poll, they do all this stuff. Mark, if you go back and look at some of the shows, so you're also going to be on the website. So you're on my website, leothelionshow.com. Nice picture of you, James. Really good picture of you.
You were able to find one?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I like the one with the shirt, though. I like the one with the T-shirt. That's my favorite. That's why I put it on the cover of the visual that I put out from the virtual for the virtual show.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, Heather, I'm sure could make things better. And Heather, I seen where you followed. I will follow you as soon as I get off of this. You look at my ratios. I follow all Patriots back. I do not. I am not in this for followers, and so I cannot follow other people back. In fact, I get very angry when other Patriots don't follow Patriots back because I want to network with you guys. And James, you can attest. In our business, we want people.
Yes.
Okay, we don't want to turn people away. It's
It's a people business, absolutely.
So I'm like, hey, you said tonight, Heather Dow. I'm like, okay, Heather's on. We're pulling her up in chat. All right, Heather, I'm going to talk to you after the show because that's the way I like to work. I like to find these people who aren't these big, monetized, huge, massive accounts.
Yeah.
That are out there doing it for love of country. That's supposed to mean something. So
I think about, was it Godfather 2 maybe, where Al Pacino, Michael Corleone looks at the Cuban, insurrectionists and basically says they can win because the soldiers are paid to fight, but these guys are just, suicide bombing out of the love of the game. They can win. And not obviously that it's going to rise to that if the FBI is watching. No, but it's more that the people who feel it in their heart will fight hard enough to win. That's the point. 4 years ago, it was the Democrats. Now it feels like it's the Republicans. Everyone says every election is the most important that'll ever happen in our life. This feels real, and it feels like the Republicans are the one who feel that in their heart. They just had their candidate shot in the head.
And person killed. So Corey Comptor killed.
Yeah.
Other guy shot. A dude's up with the AR crawling on a roof. And Secret Service says, well, we can't get on a sloped roof. Okay. So Corey Mills is a friend. Corey Mills is one of the better Republicans we have. Ex-sniper, military. Him and Eli Crane, good guys. So Corey's been on my show a couple times. He DMs me. We follow each other. I'm like, dude, and him and Eli are looking into the whole assassination attempt. Now, understand the Butler, PA assassination where he was shot. If he didn't look at the illegal immigration chart, he's done. He's temple shot. He's gone. So fate, which I'm going to say is God, said, hey, turn your head. Dude turns his head, gets his ear shot. Corey, that happened on July 13th. Now think about that, James. Have you heard anything definitive? Any action taken? Anybody fired from the Secret Service? The one lady resigned, but she kind of had to because...
She was there to take the pill in whatever form it took. It was actually, so she was there to contain the grenade to herself.
She did.
And her firing was supposed to be so satisfying that, I'm not aware of any personnel changes. I'm not aware of anyone being, taken off the front of a beat to the back since this has happened. But next week, Joshua Lysek, Jack Posobiec, their book, Bulletproof, is going to be out. I can't wait to dig into that one. This time next week, I should have it in my hands, and I want these details. Like, how could this have happened? And the more you learn, the more it looks like this was the one that was let through.
Yeah, it's so as a military guy, you're talking sloped roofs. You're after he gets shot. So what's Trump's reaction? Two things. He wants to stand back up. He can't find his shoes. They're telling him, Mr. President, stay down. He's like, I want to get back up and say, fight, fight, fight. Dude just got shot in the head. Now, let me tell you something. When you're in the military, if you get shot, you're a little stung. You're a little, you see
Right.
blood and you're like, uh-oh. He gets up and says, fight, fight, fight. They follow these Secret Service people, and I'll never forget the picture of the one woman who's kind of a roly-poly, and she can't holster her weapon. Now, dude,
Yeah.
if you're in the military or FBI or police service or whatever, you absolutely know how to holster a weapon. She's sitting there, can't holster. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell? If this isn't a setup or they're not trying to get him, were they a part of it? Who knows? Nobody knows anything.
Right.
Did they put enough stuff in place to stop it? Well, of course not. Trump has 100,000. He went back to Butler in California and all these places. He's had over 100,000 people at his rally. So I think the people, the Hispanics, 48% right now. Independents, he's up +8. Black men are saying, yeah, no, Kamala. And then after Obama came out and said, hey, you black guys, you need to vote. And I'm like, why would you condescend somebody like that? So talk a little bit about Obama's message and how that really struck the wrong nerve. That was like Kamala saying butt yesterday.
I mean, so you have Obama, who got on the scene 20 years ago. I was washing dishes at a wine bar in D.C., and I see this little skinny black guy get up on the Democratic National Convention stage, and within just a few minutes, he has the whole place just captivated. And this isn't a town of politics. And so these are theoretically the people who've seen and done it all, and that whole place was just like, whoa, what are we watching? I mean, this was a guy who was an absolute superstar and a stud in politics at one point.
He was.
And to see him 20 years later speaking to fewer people than Jesus had apostles, and to see that video leak, and to see the reaction that came back from it, I'm just, where did the magic go?
So
Where'd the hope go? What happened to the change? Paul Ryan talked about this in 2012. The young person with the Obama poster up in their bedroom, but it's all faded now. And so here's another problem.
Okay.
2008, America elects Barack Hussein Obama. We overlook as a community the Hussein of it all because he's black, right? He had the black dust sprinkled on him. And that was fine. It was history. There is now someone in the back of the history book who looks like your kid, right? So that's not nothing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then they forward a second one, and her middle name is Devi. So that speech where Obama was talking to those black men, who, by the way, are volunteers. Like, you're preaching to the choir, Obama. Go talk to the people in the streets. So that was Hussein speaking on behalf of Devi. I'm not shocked that message did not land with black people because, like I said, two is a trend. Two is a trend. And so when you see that the only black Democrats who can seem to rise to this level are these African Americans. One guy grew up in Indonesia and Hawaii. One woman grew up in Canada, was raised by an Indian woman. Her middle name is Devi. And then you look at Obama, you look at his face. Is that a black man or is that whatever a Hussein is? And then I look at Kamala Harris and I look at her kind of chicken neck there, turkey neck. And all my life I've been taught that black don't crack. I've seen 80-year-old women at the church who did not have that. Their black never cracked. Kamala Harris is also 60. She's your age. I mean, I don't know what was going on in 1964. You, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris. So I'm not sure what was going on, but her black is cracked, which tells me either there's not much of it or there's none of it. These are not Black Americans. And the act wore thin. And when you saw Hussein speak up for Devi and act like we owe something to Devi, I think that was a lot of people's last straw with Barack Obama.
Yeah, so when I was in the military, I had friends that were every race. And we were all brothers. We'd have died for each other, you know? Sergeant Tony Fields, Otis Sturtevant, all my Dana Glanton, you know, all these guys, Rucker, Alabama, all these people that were I loved them, man. I'd have done anything for them. Tony was a good black friend of mine from the Bronx, New York. He was a great guy. And I sat back and I'm on Twitter and I'm like, so hey, you know, I look at every American as American.
Right.
I don't see race. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. I don't care what
the content of your character. It's MLK's dream to do it that way.
Yeah, he'd be rolling over right now. MLK would be.
Yeah,
he'd be chastising.
This was not
No. And you know, we tell people that, and when you're older and you've watched, and people like, oh man, what do you know? You know, you're just some stupid white guy. And I'm like, man, I grew up in Cleveland. I've had black friends my whole life. And to me, they're just friends. You guys give it the race thing, which I don't care about. Like, you know, I've got white guys I can't stand. I got black guys I couldn't stand. I got black guys I'd have died for. Right. Puerto Rican guys, Mexican guys. It doesn't matter. So race to me is irrelevant. But when you come out and you purposely say, hey, you black guys, you need to vote for Devi. What are you doing? And I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, Barry, that's not going to go over very well. That's just...
No. I mean, she has your common experiences. My mom was a great cook. Our house never smelled like curry when I came home. We don't have common experience.
Like, did you...
I mean, look, and let's just, you know, let me be clear, as they like to say.
Oh, yeah.
There is a distinction to be made between a person with black skin, of which there are many, and Black Americans, which I am one, and Black Canadians, which Kamala Harris is, and Black Indonesians, as Obama is. These are all different things. That's why we have different words for them. So you can be black looking and not what I'm talking about, and not fit the bill. And if you don't think it matters, talk to some black people about it. Ask about the Hussein and the Devi of it all. And ask them if that seems strange.
Yeah, some of my friends already came out. They hit me up on X yesterday, and then they DM'd me, and they were like, that was a bad mistake. And I'm like, tell me. Like, I thought it was a mistake, but, you know, I can't sit back and make believe that I'm black, even though I grew up with them. I've never walked in their shoes, so I have no idea. And I'm like, so tell me what you mean. And they're like, man, he just pissed off a whole bunch of, like, and so then you get on X and you see these guys coming out and they're like,
oh,
bleep, 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 mother, bleep.
They laid into him.
Oh, it was brutal. And I'm sitting there and I try to watch because, again, we're in the business, right? So we want to follow every angle.
Right.
And people say, well, no, you just care about the conservative. I'm like, no. You can't talk about the conservative angle if you don't know the liberal side. If you don't follow all angles, how can you talk? You're going to sound like Kamala trying to do an interview.
Right.
You know, you're going to be pivoting to...
You can only remember the last few things that you stuffed into your head. It's not inside you. Yeah.
You should be able to just recite that stuff. Like, you're running for the greatest position, the leader of the free world, while it's still free. And trust me, it's being cracked right now. It's being
there's
imitated.
efforts afoot to change that. Yeah.
So tell me what your thoughts are, James. So you live in Michigan. You're going through, you understand what's happening in Detroit. You know what's happening there on the ground. How do you see this playing out? So we see the Poly Market says Trump 10-point favorite. How do you see this thing playing out come election? What's your feel?
Yeah, it feels more 2016 than 2020. Now, here's the thing about 2020 is Trump got a lot more votes in Michigan in 2020 than he did in 2016. Biden just got more. So, are we looking at historic high turnout, higher than 2020, which was itself historically high? Probably not. Is anti-Trump sentiment anywhere near what it was 4 years ago? Definitely not. And then you look at the uncommitted movement that took a little chunk out of Joe Biden in the primary. They've kind of rebranded as the abandoned Harris movement. They just threw them a good chunk of the Muslim vote, which could matter, behind Jill Stein of all people. So you got the Muslims in Michigan saying we want to support this little Jewish lady. Politics makes for strange bedfellows.
Oh boy.
So I mean, you look at the indicators, and it just feels like a very Trump favorable environment. Obviously, anything could happen, but that would be my guess, is that Donald Trump is going to win Michigan.
So I've been on record, and for the people that follow the show, I've been on record for 2.5 months now saying Trump is going to exceed 300 electoral, and he may even win the popular vote. And so I've went on record and said he'll win the popular vote. I think you've seen so much happening since 2020, and so much subsequently has come out since 2020, that people now have a better understanding. Like people can say Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that. Well, you can go look at his 4 years in presidency and juxtapose him to Biden and Harris. You can look at inflation, the economy, the border. You can look at all of that. So factually, people understand what's happening. Now, when all of us lived through the pain of a bad regime, I lived through Jimmy Carter. Okay, so I went through that.
Man,
Ronald Reagan's the guy that sent me off. I joined the military because of President Reagan. He's one of my favorites. Yeah. Ronnie with the shaking head, but America was so defeated and down. And that's when Lake Placid and the Miracle on Ice. There was so much stuff that happened that I think was, came from above, because it just. Too many things were happening. Our hostages by the Ayatollah, people just didn't have any respect. They didn't have any feeling of hope. And I kind of see a little bit of that today. I see people that are like, hold it, you're going to tell us what we have to do? Or you're going to tell me what I need to do because of this or because of that? When we can't feed our family. We can't pay for gas. Our inflation's through the roof. You've got us close to $36 trillion in debt. We got a recession coming. All things that if you study and you look at the stuff, James, it becomes really easy to look at. And you think, you said it earlier in the show, we can't go through another 4 years like this. If we do, guess where we're headed? We're headed into some very, very bad times. Can you picture Kamala Harris having a tough conversation with Putin or Xi or even Kim Jong-un?
No. And I've always felt that people say that Biden is like Obama's third term. I always felt it was Jimmy Carter's second term, because Carter always went out of his way to weaken America's allies and strengthen America's enemies. It was a particular brand of cucked that only I've seen Biden emulate. It's never been as clear to me in watching an American president that person has a disdain for the country as under Joe Biden. People talk about Obama. It's night and day difference from Obama to Biden. I mean, everything he could do to drive up your prices, to make your community less safe, to let, people across the border with their fentanyl, anything that could have been done to weaken America was done. That's Jimmy Carter. And what happened after Jimmy Carter? People decided they needed change. They needed someone who was going to bring some optimism. And the other thing is, I think part of our wiring, in Western civilization, the thing we're not really talking a ton about is Trump got shot in the head. I think when a guy gets shot in the head, you look at him differently. In two ways. You say, one, you feel bad for him. And I think women in particular feel that empathy for him. Like you've never seen him like that. He was always, the cat's pajamas, and now this guy was shot in the head. And two, I think it makes you say, what exactly did he do to get shot in the head? Yeah, he's said some things over the years, but so has Biden, so has everyone in politics. What did this guy specifically do to get shot in the head and to get all these assassination attempts? Why this one man? And I think we are wired in Western civilization that where the persecution goes, we know that that's where the truth is. And so by showing us on the doll where Trump is hurting him, they're basically saying, this is the guy you need to follow. So every shot, every hit piece is effectively an endorsement for Donald Trump.
Well, I agree. I think the Carter analogy is a good one. He was so weak, and he always thought he could buy his way through.
Mm-hmm.
Trump had Iran bankrupt.
Yeah.
He had these countries fearful. Because if Trump was like Reagan, if he said, hey, step out of line, and
right.
in Trump fashion, Trump in his nice way of talking, and Al Baghdadi died like a dog, People knew that he may be a little crazy, but his love of country, and if you mess with America, he was going to hurt you. And all those countries were like, yeah, no, we're not going to mess with the man with the crazy hair. We're just, no, orange man bad. We're not going to do that. Now, Biden, though, it's almost like, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to break Western civilization? Are they trying to usher in socialism? What are they trying to do? Because everything they did was anti-American. I can't think of one thing that they did. They rolled back all his stay in Mexico, the border policies, the economy, the tariffs. I mean, low on crime. They fudged numbers. They got politicized DOJ and FBI. I mean, my God, what happened, James? We used to be America. Now we're a party of, hey, the media, okay? And you and me, I guess we fall into the media. But think about it. Harris's campaign is a psyop being run by the media. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there is no such thing as Kamala Harris. There's no native belief. There's no thing she would go to the wall for. And so what I'm looking at is a 60-year-old woman who's never given birth, who talks constantly about abortion. All I see, and when you see our culture of death, it's all you see. It undergirds every single action that's being taken to weaken us. And so really this it's beyond an election, right? It's powers and principalities at this point. It's Jesus against Karl Marx at this point. Those are pretty much the two paths we have left to follow. And so you can either be a person who tries to water their grass and improve their community and be a little bit better than you were the day before. But what I find concerning is that it seems like half our neighbors are trying to suicide the country, which unfortunately would kill you and I along with it. They're not even containing the harm. It's not just self-harm. I will not stop you guys if that's your inclination. But when it affects me, now that makes us at odds with each other. And so you need to know who you're up against. It is not Walter Mondale. It's Molech. And if you don't get that, then you don't get what time it is right now.
I think that's perfectly said. And I think that's, it's why I love doing these shows, because you can meet somebody for the first time. You can start having a conversation, and by the time the conversation is 3/4 or all the way through, you feel like you're friends with that person because you can relate. Yeah. And that's what humans want to do. They want to relate. Unfortunately, we have absolute crazies out there. People that are so far gone that factually you can't give them facts and say, okay, hold it. Just analyze this. No. This is the way it is. I have a family member, and I won't say who it is, but they said, it's not about the policies. It's about the person. And I was like, in society, when we've got to a point where you can assassinate a person's character in the media, which can be controlled by one political party. So anybody that doesn't think that the Democrat Party controls the federal government, the DOJ, 90% of the Republicans, trust me, they're a bunch of weak asses. I mean, Mike Johnson, they just fund everything the Democrats want. Mm-hmm. And the media. All they do, it's all I hear is a character assassination. And I keep thinking, don't you guys actually want facts? Don't you want to know what's going to be better for your loved ones, or your grandkids, or your kids? Don't you worry about school education because we've dropped about 400 places in our scoring? Like, at some point, people have to understand there's ramifications for feeling a certain way. Mm. And we all should be able to check ourselves, right? We should all be able to say, okay, Leo, that's some really stupid ass thought you got right there. Okay? That's not going to help the country. That's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help your kids, your grandkids. It's not going to help anybody. But, oh, yeah, you're pissed. So, yeah, it makes it right.
But no, it doesn't. It's a funny thing, isn't it, about the word should? Because the word should only ever is used to describe what's not happening. Mm-hmm. Right? So we should be able to self-regulate. But John 15 talks about the true vine, right? Mm-hmm. That God puts into us what we need to grow and that needs to thrive and become more, and takes away from us what needs to go away so we can improve. And so, in 2 verses, you see love is correction. Correction is love. And then you think back to the creation story, right? Mm-hmm. Genesis 2. Everything is good. The one thing not good in all of creation was Adam being alone. So we can't save ourselves.
We need others.
Yeah.
And we need people to do, on my side right now, I absolutely want to get Trump elected, not because I know the man, because I don't. I don't. That's what I tell people. They're like, you're just some MAGA guy. I'm like, make America great again? How did that ever become bad? Like, don't we live here? Don't you want to make, do you walk into your home and I hear James say, let's make my house shitty again. Well, right. No, nobody does that. Everybody should have pride where you live, where your home is. And for some reason, that's been pulled out of people. And it's been shelved. And people sit back now and everything's partisan. So it's all political banter. And I keep thinking to myself, you can't politicize everything. A journalist is supposed to tell the facts. I don't care if it goes against your beliefs or not. James has to be able to say, hey, James, we're going to have you on Fox. What's your thoughts on this? Well, you want it to be this, but the facts say this. So you have to report this, or you lose all credibility, right?
As Clarence Thomas said, North is still North.
I love Clarence. Clarence is one of my. He causes the left so much trouble. They get so mad at him. You know, James, there's better days ahead.
Yes.
Because there's a silent majority of people that somehow don't ever get factored in to a lot of the stuff that the media says or that pollsters and partisan people say. They call it the silent majority for a reason. You know, people don't want the anguish and the fighting with their neighbors. And now around me, you'll see a Trump sign everywhere. So, you know, the people around here are farm country. They're all about Trump. But even if you put a Harris sign up, nobody would care. That's your beliefs. Right. That's what you believe. And you can't love America and be in America if you fundamentally can't appreciate what other people believe. I can question it. I can absolutely sit back and say, why? Why do you feel that way, James? Or what would make you vote that way? I do it on X all the time. I throw stuff out there, James. I say, explain to me why. It can't just be abortion, right? That can't be the only thing that's going to save America, because that's death. That is not growing our society. That's not helping.
That's what we have to understand. These people aren't here to save America with us. We have to take America from them to save it. If they get the baby for the night, they'll drown it in the bathtub. It's as simple as that. And so we have to save our country from them, and we have to save us from them, and we have to save them from themselves. I mean, think about how much of a focus abortion is in the movement. Now, the people getting worked up about abortion generally aren't in families that are having abortions. So who are you talking about?
Right.
You're talking about not your kids, fundamentally. So we're trying to stop them from killing their own kids and transing and mutilating their own kids. It's incredible. Like,
how did they get
and what you can't do when you're trying to prevent death is you can't grow. There's not going to be another Elon Musk. There's not going to be a Henry Ford, because we're talking about how can I look into my own belly button and, I need to mutilate myself. I need to change myself. I need this kind of chemical. It's unhealthy. It's unbiblical. It's specifically anti-God. And so we have to get in that book so that when we see commercials during the Super Bowl about Fortune Cookie Jesus, who sings the lead in a Seattle grunge band on the weekends, that we know that guy is not the one from the book. Too often our values are being used against us because we have this kind of Bible quote pillow understanding of our faith. The deeper you go into it, the harder it's going to be for anyone to tell you about your God. I mean, think about the Adam and Eve story. That was the root of the very first sin, is you have a relationship with God yourself, and you let a talking serpent tell you about the God you know.
That's exactly right. James, you got to
Leo,
promise.
got Monday or Thursday night football I need to get to. It is.
I'm getting ready to. I was getting ready to say, listen, come election, November 5th or 6th, you got to come back on, make an appearance.
I'll be here.
We'll talk about Michigan and stuff, but James, absolutely fantastic. Who's playing tonight?
I don't even know.
You know what? That's where I'm at in my life.
NFL. I'm going to turn my brain off and wake up, and it's going to be tomorrow.
James David Dickson. Fantastic, man. It's really good meeting your acquaintance. I'm glad we made it through yesterday. Absolutely. And safe and good luck to you, my friend.
Absolutely. And Leo, we're going to have to talk about that football team of yours.
The Buckeyes?
But
well, as long as Ryan Day is there, I'm not a fan. Trust me. But
I appreciate you, and let's do this again.
Sounds good. All right, man. Listen, thank you very much for your time, and go watch some football, and God bless.
All right, take care.
See ya. James David Dickson, everyone. So, great conversation. Just two guys talking, one from Michigan. He thinks that Trump, he sees it more like 2016. I think we all see it that way, right? We all understand. That's kind of where we're at. And it's because of real things that have happened. You know, we sit back and we look at everything now and we think to ourselves, how do we get here? And I think that's an exercise that's worth our time. It's worth understanding because we don't ever want to be here again, ever. We have to right size our country. We have to make it safe, both internal, inside of our borders and external. You know, we owe it to the rest of the world, our allies, and a lot of people to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do. So as always, my friends, thank you very much. Thanks to James David Dickson, the Enjoyer podcast. Go look for it. I made a new friend tonight, Heather, so I'm going to follow Heather. And that's what we do. We continue to seek out and find patriots. We put them on the show. We talk to them about what's taking place. So my friends, as always, stand tall and be accountable. Never let them take your hope. They're so desperate right now. Times are so hard, which makes things scary, makes things interesting because you have no idea what people are going to do. But you can control what you do. Vote. There's 4 days left in Pennsylvania to register to vote. Look at your state specifically. Get on the Secretary of State website. Understand what amendments, what issues are going to be voted on. You heard James talking about how the redistricting used to be 16, now it's 15, Electoral College. Ohio has got issue 1 on the ballot this year, redistricting. You have to look at those little things because our inability to watch those things, go vote for our Republican guy or whoever you're voting for, and then not understand the down ballot and these issues. And those things have come back to bite us on the butt. They've come back to hurt us. Pay attention, educate yourself. Go watch some football like James. And as always, my friends, thank you for joining the America First Patriot Hour. Sorry that it took us a day, but we're going to continue to put good people on. We're going to put patriots on, and we're going to talk to you guys about real things. And we're going to have conversations like that because I think that's important. So until I talk to you guys next week or until I get another guest that wants to do an early show, make sure you guys were loud enough that they can hear you. God bless and have a good night.